Presenting herself as the big brain e-girl tech agent from Germany, Killjoy attempts to dominate the agents in Valorant with all of her cool inventions. Her kit is pretty unique and super annoying to deal with, and many would consider her to basically be the equivalent of Cypher in terms of her ability. I want to give you guys insight on just how she'll be using abilities in game so that you're not only better equipped to play her, but more importantly be familiar with how to counter her so that you'll be able to apply this knowledge in every game. There's also some components in her kit that some people would consider rather annoying to deal with, so I want to also discuss how she can impact the overall meta and what you can do to make the best use of that in your own games. Gamers! It's Quash Daddy here, back with some more in-depth analysis so you can suck just a little bit less. Make sure to sub and hit the notification bell if you want to see more content like this, and let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to see covered. Killjoy is the 12th addition to the Valorant roster of agents and blasts onto the scene with her assortment of area controlling abilities. She's a very interesting addition to the lineup in that she, along with every subsequent agent release, will greatly impact the shape of the meta and will create exponentially more agent combinations within the game. For those who aren't familiar with the format of my character guides, my objective for you by the end of this video is for you to be able to understand the basic ins and outs of the agent while giving you some more valuable details and tricks so you can gain a competitive edge on your enemies. This means that I'll be going over each of Killjoy's abilities, different interactions they can have, and good use case scenarios and situations. Killjoy's first and arguably the strongest basic ability in her kit is Nanoswarm. Nanoswarm is Joy's version of what's essentially a command Molotov, where she can place the grenade on the ground ahead of time, and she can then activate the molly anywhere on the map, similar to a Cypher trap. Nanoswarm can also actually be destroyed by enemy bullets, although finding the traps is no easy feat. In addition to this, Nanoswarm's trap can also be tossed into crevices and hidden areas to make it extremely hard or basically impossible to shoot it in this case. On defense, Nanoswarm is an awesome way to prevent enemies from breaking through common entryways on sites and can buy you a lot of time when needed. Dealing 15 damage per tick, Nanoswarm will actually melt through enemies that don't respect its area control capabilities. A great way to use Nanoswarm is to also pair it with some of Joy's other basic abilities, which are able to easily reveal enemy locations. Once an enemy is revealed, then it's easy for you to just activate the molly from across the map and stop a push in its tracks. This can even apply to areas on site where enemies will commonly attempt to plant at. You can activate the molly from a far distance even if you have to give up sight, and then activate it to stall your team so that they can rotate over. On the attack, Nanoswarm shines as a post-plant tool as you simply just drop both charges of it on angles surrounding the bomb, and when you hear an enemy attempt to defuse the bomb, you just activate it from anywhere and buy yourself so much extra time. This is probably the most frustrating part of Killjoy's kit for enemies to deal with, but is definitely one tool that makes her extremely flexible and powerful as a sentinel. As of the time of recording, Nanoswarm currently costs 200 credits per charge, and she can carry 2 of them per round. Killjoy's second ability is called Alarmbot, which allows her to essentially place a trap that will detect enemies within its range. If it detects someone, it will run to you fairly quickly and explode, and applies vulnerability onto you. Alarmbot currently costs 200 credits to purchase, and Joy can only carry 1 charge of it per round. Although it doesn't deal any damage, Alarmbot is a great ability for holding down areas on site, and is basically a better version of Cypher's Tripwire. Another thing that's insane about this ability is that you can actually recall it back to your inventory from anywhere on the map, so if you have to rotate quickly or for whatever reason need to change up your positioning, then you can just press the button again and have it back. You can also pair it with Nanoswarm to make a nasty combo. Simply place an Alarmbot somewhere that you want to hold, and then when it triggers, you can activate Nanoswarm accordingly. Since Alarmbot also applies vulnerable, this actually doubles the damage of the Nanoswarm as well. Turret is exactly what it sounds like. It's a turret. Similar to Alarmbot, Killjoy can drop her turret to hold a certain angle, typically a flank angle, and simply have the bot manage that area for her. Turret can also be used similarly to Alarmbot, that you can pair it with a Nanoswarm for a similarly lethal combo. Turret can also even be recalled anywhere on the map, so that it can be useful for your team after they have secured a site or another area on the map. This does put Turret on a 20-second cooldown, but it still makes for an incredibly flexible ability. If destroyed, Turret will also go on a 45-second cooldown. Turret also targets enemies in a 180-degree angle, and in its cast time, you can decide which direction the turret can face. Now, on the surface, it may sound incredibly broken to just be able to drop a gun like that on the ground, but it actually only deals around 11 damage in a 3-round burst, so it's more of a tickle than anything. What's arguably stronger about the turret than the potential damage is the slow that it provides. Since tagging in this game is super heavy, you'll be slowed down significantly if you get shot by the turret, which can actually be what secures you a kill in certain situations. The turret also highlights enemies shot by it in red, which will still make sure that you have the info you need to rotate accordingly. Finally, onto Lockdown, being her ultimate. As of now, it costs 7 ultimate points to activate and marks a giant area on the map that Joy can secure after 15 seconds. At the end of the timer, all enemies that are within the area of the lockdown device will be detained, which is a disgusting CC that massively slows movement speed and prevents you from using any abilities or weapons, including your knife. Detained players will be stuck in the safe for 7 seconds as well, and Joy is notified of all enemies that have been detained. In layman's terms, don't get detained or you're screwed. One caveat that Lockdown has is that it can be destroyed before it fully ticks down. With 150 HP, it will take a little bit to tick down, but it is very extremely vulnerable ability if placed out in the open. With the extra long range and the ability to be effective through walls, Lockdown will succeed best when placed in cover. It also has the ability to reach vertically to any height in the game, so you can even place it completely off to the side at times if needed. When playing against the lockdown device, although it is extremely intimidating, it has a fair amount of counterplay available due to its extremely long window before it activates. For example, since the device takes around 15 seconds to activate, you could actually use that window to clear out a site and take down all of your enemies and simply leave the AoE of the lockdown. Its stun can also be countered with certain abilities such as Omen Ultimate and Phoenix's Run It Back, which are good methods to counter the CC of the ability in different ways. You can also simply hunt down the device and attempt to break it as long as it is practical to do so. It's not always possible to do this, but always keep this possibility in mind. Killjoy presents herself as an incredible entry to the Valorant roster, and in some ways can be so good that she arguably can impact the entire meta and can change what team comps can be run. For example, now that you can run both a Cypher and a Killjoy in your comps, it creates for a potentially disgusting amount of site control and information for your team with a very minimal amount of agents required to make this happen. This also allows for some leverage and additional creativity in both your team compositions and how your teams can play out rounds. Cypher and Killjoy are agents that are enough control to hold down an entire site by themselves, so drafting both of them will make defending incredibly powerful on any of the 2 site maps. This means that your remaining 3 players have so much more flexibility and can even really play aggressively if they need to. They could even leave a site unattended, drop an insane amount of traps there, and simply play for the retake scenario if they need to. The opportunities that Killjoy can bring a team is actually incredible because of this, and I actually believe that Riot should be rather careful in implementing agents in the future if they don't want to have the Overwatch effect. Of course, Riot's definitely keeping this in mind, but agent development is an incredibly hard thing to do, so I understand why it could be hard to execute. Overall, Killjoy's kit as a Sentinel brings incredible range and effective area control that brings a strong resemblance to Cypher, but with more bullets and damage in place of direct vision. She's definitely super fun to play, and also is incredibly useful for almost any team composition right now. If you're ever confused about any component in her kit, feel free to go back to any point in the video or leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Hope you guys have fun with her, and stay fresh, brothers.